Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. We are continuing our Emmy conversations. Joining us today from Better Call Saul, Giancarlo Esposito, Emmy nominated. 7 years after your last Emmy nomination for Breaking Bad, you're
Yes.
back again.
I feel honored. Honored.
Pretty cool.
It's-
Two different shows, same character. But probably never imagined that after your Breaking Bad Emmy nomination that you'd someday be back Emmy nominated for playing the same character.
Never imagined it.
Because he had died.
He had died, and I was
Yeah.
completely in shock at this Emmy nomination. It's been wonderful to be back with Better Call Saul, to explore Gustavo Fring prior to us and the world meeting him in Breaking Bad, and it really turned the tables in the head to think about how we are when we're younger. How are we when we're a little bit younger and maybe 6 years younger, a little more vulnerable, a little less knowledgeable, a little more aggressive in our nature before we settle down. So
Right. Like he hasn't figured it all out.
Exactly.
When we first see him in season 3.
Exactly.
He's just kind of observing.
Observing,
As Gus will do.
absolutely, and calculating and trying to formulate what his next move might be within this very nefarious family of drug dealers and chicken makers.
Yeah. But I mean, safe to say now, you're filming season 5 right now, and Gus has kind of gotten to the point where he has arrived. He's getting closer to that character that you played on Better Call, or on Breaking Bad, rather.
Exactly right. Modulating my performance up or down has been interesting for me because it's a matter of really being focused and knowing yourself and knowing the character well enough to know what you may or may not do. It's exciting to have, maybe in this particular case, the show is about Saul, but to envision how we will eventually collide. And that's a wonderful thing, but also figuring out the nuances of my relationship with Mike Ehrmantraut, played by Jonathan Banks, and all of my henchmen, to figure out what is this calculation that brings him to say, I want it all.
Mm-hmm.
And we know in life, as we get closer and closer to our goals, sometimes we get sidetracked. And when you're so very close to reaching your goal, stay the course. So I keep saying to myself, stay the course, Giancarlo, stay the course.
Yeah. I read an interesting thing where you imagine Gus having perhaps a wife and child.
I sure do. And I think, maybe it's a part of my life that I have been married and I have 4 lovely daughters, and I'm divorced now, but very, very close to my former wife. I think it's an expansion of the other side of Gus that interests me a great deal. Not only the fact that he could have a family, he's already an upstanding citizen on one side, and you see that he cares and has a great amount of integrity. So what would he be like if he had children that we were to meet and a wife that we were able to meet? Don't know if that'll ever happen, but certainly in my imagination, it helps me with the character who's been hiding in plain sight. Part of this role has really taught me to just be in my own skin. After all these years of acting, we take on so many different cloaks and coats and so many different masks. And I think sometimes for an actor, we wonder who we really are underneath it all. And my family has given me that root that allows me to know that I can pass or fail and they'll still love me.
I was kind of wondering, well, what does Gus do on his downtime? And then I read this kind of imagining you're thinking, well, maybe he does have this home life that we never see. Because I was just thinking, well, I mean, you see, he's hardworking. Mm-hmm. He's always, he's at the restaurant, he's running his drug empire, he's building that. Mm-hmm. But does he ever have time for a hobby? Does he ever have time? He makes a good fish stew. I remember that.
Very
Yes.
good. That's exactly right. I was thinking the same thing. He cooks. It calms him. He chops vegetables. He makes a very, very good fish stew, a paella, among other things. And I want to know more possibly about what he feels about the world we're living in. I know that some things I ask for may be a tall order. I know that when I spoke to Vince Gilligan, he says the more mysterious Gus is, the more we want to see of him. So then I focus a lot on my mannerisms and my thought form, because you as an audience can certainly see what a character may be thinking or could be on the hook to being fascinated by what is he thinking right now? What is the next question he will ask me? And why is he so very nice but so very particular in his manner? So for me as an actor, I feel blessed to have been able to express myself through what I do, but also to have it to be recognized. And so I say now, and someone had told me the fact that you just said that I've been nominated for the same character in 2 different shows spanning 2 decades. I'm blown away when I think about that, honestly. But it gives me the opportunity to really be in gratitude to be nominated because I've already won. When I heard that statistic, I went, oh, I've already won. I can just go have fun now.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? First time I was so very nervous about everything. I knew when they were going to be announced. I knew all this stuff. And this year, I had no idea, and I was blindsided by a wonderful nomination. So I'm in gratitude to all the folks at the Television Academy who voted for me, and all my fans who love me.
Were you able to enjoy the Emmys that year that you went?
You know, I did enjoy it. It is a thrill and a show, and they do it better than anyone else. It's a great honoring. You see a lot of old friends, but I don't feel as if I was completely invested in enjoyment.
Yeah.
I wish I could be. I think this year I will be.
Because it's so much
It's
coming at you.
It's so much coming at you, and you know, I'll say this. You probably already know it, but we who are in the entertainment industry, and we who are actors, are particularly sensitive, and so I feel all that energy coming at me. Just as the day that I got a call from Jennifer Sims, my publicist, who said, "Hey, you know, you're a 2-time Emmy nominee now." Then the day was followed by nothing but love. People who admire me, friends, family, producers, all just sending me messages that said, wow, congratulations. So it's great to be steeped in that good feeling.
Yeah. Now the episode that you're submitting for voters is episode 6 from this past season. Pretty great Gus episode because he tells a great story to Hector in that episode, doesn't he?
He sure does.
I mean, the whole thing with Gus and Hector, and Gus trying to rehabilitate Hector, but not too much, is just so chilling.
It really is. Keep him right there. You know, the doctor says, we can go a little further. Nope, that's enough. I find that this particular episode, Piñata, given the fact that I have a certain amount of screen time in this season 4, was powerful. And I thought, how do I tell this story and make it revelatory? How do we really speak about ourselves in a certain way that allows people to know where we came from and where we'd like to go and what's inside of us? And this particular story does that. So strange. I was in Austin, Texas, where I lived at the time, and it was 2 days before I was to shoot this, and the coati, this, you know, raccoon-like animal that can be very, very brutal. And I was in my backyard and had a fence that was an L that went all the way around the yard, and I saw this animal that was a coati, and I was like, this is inspirational. And the way it moved on the fence and the way it scurried faster and then turned around, very Gus-like, and hissed at me before it continued on its journey, which allowed me to know, don't get any closer, because this animal will bite you. And so when I get inspiration like that, by the time I got to the set and was speaking to Hector, to firstly allow him to be completely alive, allow my conversation, as if I'm speaking to you right now, as if he's looking at me, but he's not, because he's in a coma of sorts. And to have that live on both ends was an amazing challenge, truly.
Are you saying that, because the coati is, you know, Gus is telling the story, but you just happened to see one a couple of days before?
In my life, before I flew from Austin to Albuquerque to shoot that episode, I saw one.
That's kind of an interesting coincidence.
It really was, because I had
spirit animal.
They're really, absolutely my spirit. I'm actually praying to him right now. Yes. My mouth dropped open, because to have an experience and a vision and then to have it turn and hiss at me allowed me to know that his story was true, that he struggled with this animal, but this animal was threatening his livelihood, the fruit from the tree with which he fed his family, and was able to get through that moment in time where he didn't know where dinner was coming from. Then it truly allows you to see that animal was a threat, and that threat needs to be neutralized.
So you're saying pretty much not a day goes by without somebody recognizing you on the street and just calling out Gus or reacting to you as the character that you play. What are people kind of expecting from that?
So I get off a plane yesterday, because my flying is a big part of my transportation life. I'm doing 4 different shows, sometimes overlapping at one time. And yesterday I get off the plane, and 2 things happened. I'm dragging my suitcase, and I see 2 people sitting there, and they're just husband and wife, and they looked up and they were polite and smiled, didn't get up, and I walked the wrong direction and had to double back. And as I was doubling back past them, that whole little section of the airport, right outside the gate, people were a Twitter. How did I know that? Because my daughter says, just put your head down a little bit, Papa. Chin not so high, head down, keep walking. So I tried to adopt that, and I heard, Gus is here, where? And the guy is looking around when his family is there and looking around, and I almost went, I'm here, but I just kept going because that was the appropriate thing to do to make my flight.
Yeah.
But
do you ever kind of just mess with people? Because you don't really, as a Gus, it's just that quiet menace.
It's the quiet menace, and everyone would like to have that in their selfie.
Yeah.
Most people. So I wind up doing 2 selfies as opposed to 1, because I want them to feel me and my energy. You know, I'm a guy who is really grateful for the position I've been put in. Why? First thought I had at this nomination was, I get a chance to talk about how grateful I am and how honored I am to be within this category of other great actors. So I feel as if I've arrived, and that's why I say I've already won. My first question was, who else is nominated? Oh, wow, he's nominated, he's nominated, he's nominated. Wow, this is great. His performance was fantastic. So I really felt, the first time I got nominated, I felt like, oh, well, you know, I really want to win, and maybe I should check out these other people, see what my chances are.
Who won that year?
Peter Dinklage. No, Aaron Paul, which was fantastic.
Okay.
Someone from the show that I was.
good.
He's pretty good. He's not bad.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to live a public and private life in public, and so I've adopted a new one. Give people what they want. Make them happy. They're giving you love, even if they get overly excited and awkward. That's the thing that gets me sometimes. They're just so awkward, don't know what to do, what to say. They drop in the phone, don't know how to get the phone on, get the camera on, all these different things. And it teaches me to be patient and to be compassionate, because they're going to go away and feel like they had a moment, a real moment in their life that made a difference for them. And that's what I'm about, empowering people to be their best selves and allowing them to know that you can do it too. Just follow your dream. And to me, that's very important. I was up at a screening of The Boys, another show I'm doing for Amazon, Eric Kripke, who I worked with previously a few years ago in Revolution. And there was a guy who said to me, I told you about this. He was a writer of the show, one of the co-creators. I told you about this when it was a movie. We were in Australia. It was 7 years ago. And I was telling you this whole story on a bus, and I remembered this gentleman. And he said, this was a movie then, but now it's a TV show, and I did it. And I looked at him and I said, your dream has come true. And that felt good to share that moment with him.
Yeah. You're filming season 5 right now.
I am.
Right?
Yes, I am.
So you're just like on a little break?
I have
doing a little victory lap here for the Emmy nomination?
I'm doing a victory lap for the Emmys on my way back to Albuquerque very soon for our gallery shoot over the weekend, and then beginning episode 509 very soon.
So almost at the end of the season.
Almost at the end. It goes very, very quickly.
You were like freaking people out on the internet saying it's 6 seasons and done. You had made this declaration and
Yeah, and I got my hand slapped.
yeah, I wondered about that, right?
Yeah,
But it does feel like, I mean, Peter Gould has said that, we're closer to the end than the beginning, and it does feel like it does feel like that.
It does. I'm only judging from what our example has been, and our fearless
Sure.
leader, Vince Gilligan, has suggested that normally it's 5. On Breaking Bad, we split that 5th season into a 6th because we shot extra episodes and kept going. And I didn't mean to speak out of turn or out of school, but I agree with Vince. I feel as if that's the perfect amount of time, 5 or 6 seasons, to tell a story, beginning, middle, and end that continues to be exciting and riveting, as well as entertaining. So I didn't mean to have any spoilers, but
Right.
I certainly feel as if I have stumbled on a gem, not only once, but a second time now.
And you're going to go to the end of the show. Whereas on Breaking Bad,
It's a great thing.
I mean, did they tell you before season 4,
Oh, you don't know this story? Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, so season 401 was Box Cutter, a very
Right,
brutal episode
right.
for me, where at Gus you actually see him doing his own dirty.
Yeah.
And so without any further spoiler about that, I was shooting that, and I knew that I wouldn't be in episode 402 because after seeing something as reprehensible as was depicted in my action in 401, you need a little breather from the sky for a moment. So episode 402, Vince came to prep for 403, which he was directing, and they called me in and said, "Hey, Vince wants to see you." And I went, "Ooh, this can't be good. Teacher wants to see me in the office. What's this going to be about?" So I was already prepared in my mind for the news that possibly I wouldn't be around anymore. I stepped into his office, and he said, "Hey, sit down." And he sits down, the door is wide open, and we start chatting. "Hey, have you seen my movie I directed? I mean, I would love to direct an episode of this." "No, I know, I haven't seen it yet. I'm sorry. Let me get up and close the door." And Vince, don't close the door. Oh, he sits back down. We chat a little longer. How are the kids? How's this? How's that? Let me just close. Vince, I said, don't close the door. One more time, ha, 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 but a little more of a nervous laugh. And the third time, he stood up. I stood up with him. And I said, "I told you, you do not close the door."
Yeah.
And then I busted out laughing, and I went and closed the door. And he was relieved. And he said, "The town's not big enough for both of you. It's Walter White, and it's his journey, and this, that, and the other." So, and then he consulted me, which I love about this team of great writers and filmmakers. If this were to happen, what would you be doing? Let's say, there was an explosion. What might Gus be doing at that time? I said, "Well, Vince, I sit down, I open my jacket, I get him very proper in that way, I fix my tie, and he, oh, your tie." And he loved it and didn't know that he was going to write that. And sure enough, he did. And so it was a great collaboration to allow me to, because after all, Gus had walked into a hail of bullets. He's a made man in our world, that we know what that means, that you cannot kill this guy. And so for me, it was a wonderful moment in time to be pulled into that decision-making process and suggestive process of what might happen to this character.
It was great that they reintroduced the Hector's bell in this past season.
Yes, it is, and it certainly is. You feel like, oh, it's the beginning of this very dangerous feeling that you will get from this show. And this is good television. This is really good television.
And season 5 is going to be kind of surprising, you've said.
It will be very surprising. What's
Yeah.
lovely about the opportunity that the writers have had and the producers on this show is to bring back characters that you haven't seen in a long time. So it's very possible to see some characters that you know and may be afraid of and maybe love, but it certainly is deepening the connection between, the human connection between characters that exist and that we experience sometimes in our lives in a different fashion.
Looking forward to it.
I am too.
Thank you so much for coming in today. It's been great talking to you.
I've been so in gratitude to be here with you. You're a bit of a legend yourself, and no, you laugh. You don't think of yourself that way, but thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you. And for more of these Emmy conversations, you can go to latimes.com. Thank you so much for watching.